Hello and welcome to India Election Watch. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Less than 12 hours to go after the bitter campaign, the 2-month-long campaign and a 7-phase election. We are counting down to result day. And even now, the row over electronic voting machines continues. That has to be the top headline. Today, the Election Commission rejected a demand from 22 opposition parties to make last-minute changes to the counting procedure. Leaders from 22 parties had approached the Commission yesterday. They wanted paper slips from VVPAT machines to be counted first. They were pushing for 100% counting of paper slips if there was any discrepancy. That request was denied by the Election Commission today. Tomorrow, counting will involve matching of more paper slips from 5 polling booths. They will be picked randomly from each assembly segment towards the end of the counting process. Now, this is something that the opposition parties have been pushing for throughout the election. They had moved the Supreme Court as well. In the first review petition, they had asked for 50% of the VVPAT slips to be verified. A bench led by the Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, had dismissed this petition. Later, a vacation bench of the Apex Court dismissed a writ petition. This one sought 100% counting of the VVPAT slips. This writ petition was filed by a group of technocrats. The opposition parties have raised some fresh charges against the EVMs. And they have also raised some reports that claim that EVMs are being changed in some strong rooms across the country. These are rooms where EVMs are kept. The Election Commission has issued a strong denial of all such reports. Back in April, the Supreme Court had raised the number of VVPAT slips to be verified from 1 to 5. Opposition parties led by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu were not happy. They wanted 100% physical verification of each vote. Clearly, the Apex Court disagrees with that. The Election Commission says that physical verification of votes could lead to massive delays. Even if 50% VVPAT slips are counted, it would delay the results by 6 days. The opposition leaders in several states are keeping a hawk's eye on strong rooms. As I said, these are rooms where EVMs have been kept. For some reason, they're called strong rooms. Congress President Rahul Gandhi sent out a message to his party on Twitter. It said, and I'm quoting, "The next 24 hours are important. Be alert, be vigilant. Do not be afraid. You are fighting for the truth. Don't be disheartened by what the fake exit polls are propagating. Have faith in yourselves and the Congress. Your hard work will not be in vain. Jai Hind." More or less on the lines of what his sister said in her audio message, reports say that some opposition leaders are now camping outside these strong rooms. Congress candidate from Madhya Pradesh, Digvijay Singh, and his wife visited one such at the central jail in Bhopal. Reports say that some Congress workers in Uttar Pradesh sat outside EVM strong rooms in Meerut and Raebareli. One report also says that the Congress workers in Chandigarh have been sitting outside strong rooms since Monday. Technically, any party is entitled to this. Representatives of candidates can also inspect these machines once they're taken to the counting room and placed on a table. But clearly, they're not taking any chances. With me in the studio, our guests, Andrew Whitehead, writer and senior journalist. We have Lord Meghnad Desai, author and professor emeritus at the London School of Economics. We have Walter Anderson, former US official in the State Department, author and academician. And we have Professor Makarand Paranjpe, director, Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, with me here. Good evening and welcome to all of you. The EVM row, I have a feeling it will not die down even after the results are out.
I don't know. I think it's one of those issues which will have particular salience in this very strange period between exit polls and the count. I'm not surprised the Election Commission has refused to bow to the opposition demand. After all, this is the world's biggest election, 600 million people voting. You can't change the way that you approach the count with 24 hours' notice. But I am quite struck by the strength of feeling among opposition parties. We saw it again with some messaging today from Congress leaders and other opposition party leaders. Having said that, I'd be rather more impressed if they'd been quite so loud in their concerns a little bit earlier in the election cycle. Some of these EVMs have been locked up in strong rooms since April the 11th for 6 weeks or a little bit more, and it's only really now that we're having this sort of mass chowkidar campaign. I suppose it keeps the party activists occupied through a really difficult time when the messaging, particularly for Congress, is really, really tricky. Yet again, in today's message, Rahul Gandhi did not say that we're going to win. He said, you know, your work will what was it? Your work will not go to waste. Well, again, that's a very strange message. But, my suspicion is, unless there is a real problem with the tally between the VVPATs and the electronic voting, that this will die down quite quickly.
Karan Paranjpe, this has become a bit of an emotional issue as well, with many saying that you're, in a way, disrespecting all the voters who came out. You are questioning the democratic process in the world's biggest democracy. Why do you think opposition parties are resorting to this now? Is this a betrayal of the fact that they feel that they are indeed losing and they need to keep their people galvanized?
Sheer desperation. They want to be in the limelight. They want to create some drama around their loss. But I think it shows they're really bad losers. You know, in school we were taught, you know, to play as hard as you can, but then shake hands with the guy who defeated you or the other side. And I don't think they're showing even the modicum of sportsman spirit that we expect even from our cricketers. You know, the politicians are really bad losers. But look at the lighter side of it. I saw a video on a national channel today where both the BJP and the Congress workers were guarding a strong room. And to pass the time, they were playing Antakshari. You know, and the song that they played is Nana Karte Pyar Tumhi Se Kar Baithe. You know, so it's like, it's a subtle message that, look, we are all in the same boat, as it were, whether we are BJP, RSS. And it's also a very interesting flip, how after, you know, Chaukidar Chor Hai, now the opposition has become the Chaukidar.
Yeah.
And the PM and all his other, you know, followers are relaxing and, you know, meditating or confabulating. And the other people have all become Chaukidars. So I think we have to take it in a lighter spirit and enjoy it, you know. And it's only till tomorrow we have to wait in any case. So all this drama is just a part of the overall fun that is a part of the Indian elections. And I'm sure that most people, once the results are out, they'll say, oh, we respect the people's verdict, you know. I think they
accept it with humility. I know those lines by heart.
Exactly, that standard line. I expect that to happen tomorrow, once, you know, the results really come out.
Right. You said that politicians can be sore losers. We were looking at pictures from Jakarta today. Indonesia went to the polls recently, and the opposition is not ready to accept the result as it has come out. Joko Widodo has once again won this election. Do you believe that what is happening with the Home Ministry also sending out messages that there could be violence? This is going to be the dirtiest election that India has seen in very many ways.
In many ways, it's been dirty in terms of the charges that have been thrown back and forth. But to get back to whether or not this sense of loss is going to continue, it may. I think now of the American example where, you know, Hillary Clinton for the last several months has been using every forum possible to say, I didn't really lose the election, the Russians stole it from me, that sort of thing. And I think what lies behind the persistence of this kind of argument is a sense that what happened wasn't supposed to happen. I think there was a genuine feeling among the Congress and others that they would do much better than apparently they've done. And what triggered it was the exit polling, which indicated that they hadn't done that well. And I think there was a shock in the system. And if, in fact, if the vote tomorrow tends to substantiate the exit polls, I think there's going to be a continuation of explaining why we did so badly within the party. And how long that goes, I don't know. A lot depends on whether the press, you know, takes up other arguments and it becomes part of the dialogue of politics, what the leaders say. That's why I'd be curious to see how the leaders react to all this. You know, will they drop this or not? I don't know. I'm somewhat skeptical. Maybe I'm speaking from the American example where the losers of the last election haven't dropped it. In fact, it's still a very live and emotional issue in the U.S., and it might be here as well.
Indeed, and I don't think it's just the Congress party that's shocked. We've been speaking to people when these exit poll numbers came in various newsrooms, wherever they put out these figures. Most of the people said this can't be, and let's shave off some of those numbers and let's balance this a bit. So the numbers probably were much higher than what have been projected. But to say that EVMs don't work, and this happens after every election, this time more so than any other time, do you believe that there is really an alternative that India can resort to?
You know, what it is that they're in denial. You know, they never ever thought that BJP would become a permanent part of the ruling sort of government. And the defeat in 2004 gave them a lot of courage. You know, the old secular, tolerant, etc. is back. It'll always be back because it represents India. And they didn't prepare, they didn't organize, they didn't fight a decent election. They believed their own propaganda. There was this massive unemployment and there's farmers' distress, and all those things are going on. And of course the caste equation. So BJP couldn't possibly win, was their conclusion. And I think they really deluded themselves. And then when exit polls came out, they were completely shocked. And they said it cannot be because of real thing. It must be somebody is manipulating the machines. I mean, that's just one more excuse to continue being in denial, which I think tomorrow it'll get sorted out. And if NDA BJP gets 40% of the vote share, as some people show, it would be extraordinary result.
You know, my fear is that it will not be put to rest tomorrow. It's one of those things like the Balakot strikes or the Rafale scam. Either you believe there is a scam or you believe there isn't. The facts in the case, the arguments, logical arguments do not matter. One side can put up 10 experts who say that EVMs cannot be tampered with, and the other side will put 15 who say that...
I'm not sure that that's right. I think there is a balance of opinion that EVMs are fairly reliable. But I think what has given impetus to the opposition's campaign, and it now really is now a campaign, is that the Election Commission is divided. It's publicly divided, and it's quite bitterly divided. Now, it's not divided on the issue of EVMs and their reliability, but nevertheless, the sense that somebody within the Election Commission thinks basically that the Chief Election Commissioner is a little bit partisan and not very collegiate in style, clearly erodes political confidence in the neutrality of the Election Commission. And I think that's one of the things that we're seeing in the way in which the opposition parties are responding.
Is this then the biggest crisis that electoral democracy has seen in India? 11 million people were involved in this exercise, and yet there's a question mark on the fairness of it.
No, I don't think so. I think the crisis is a kind of civil war in India among the culture-determining group, the elite or the intelligentsia, who, because of their own echo chambers or whatever, will never accept. It's become a theology. Anti-Modi has become a theology. They will never accept it, regardless of the evidence to the contrary. But I don't think the reliability of the EVMs is really an issue. I think this is drama. But just to play the devil's advocate, imagine what would happen if tomorrow, God forbid, but the polls are actually belied and that Congress does much better. It's going to give them the biggest possible boost, saying, we always told you, we knew, that the people were with us, and you lied, you are crooks. So what I'm trying to say, there is an unforgiving denial on the one hand, a theology, a theological hatred almost, but there's also this sort of, you might call it an irrational belief in an expired idea of India, which is going to make people sort of exiles in their own land, completely beleaguered and, under siege and walking around looking, so displaced out of Lutyens' Delhi, saying that, oh gosh, ye sheher, the beautiful song,
yes.
It looks like I've turned into an alien in my own land.
Mm-hmm. Right. Interestingly, you compared this with the US election, and in this day and age, election meddling is a real issue, given how many people are on social media, given our reliance on technology. What do you think that whichever government comes to power now should do to put such concerns to rest?
Well, I think the winners have to be generous in both their comments. They can't, continue with these very nasty comments about the other side, as was the case during the campaign. And I would think that the losers have to be generous as well. You have to have some kind of reconciliation. Though I'm with you, maybe it's my American experience, I'm a little skeptical about whether or not this is going to happen, because the losers, in effect, backed by many of India's intellectuals, are arguing that this is somewhat an illegitimate government, that there's a certain illegitimacy about all of this. And this incident proves in a sense, or substantiates the illegitimacy of the government. They'll do anything to stay in power illegitimately. So I don't think it's going to sort of die down. It may, the furor may be a bit less, but it will change when an event, like in the U.S., when something happens that grabs the public attention, it goes up again. I have a feeling that is going to happen.
Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. It looks like the BJP is going to get 50% more votes than Congress. Congress is probably going to be in something like...
in the 30s.
Yeah. It's going to be something 20% to 30% or something like that. So it's not even close. No. And I think when we get the results, if they are even broadly in line with the trends that the exit polls indicate, Congress will have to shut up about this, because there's no way in which issues about the EVM or alleged tampering is going to determine the outcome.
Yeah, I hope you're right, but the fact is, in an election this huge, with so many people involved, as you said, there are going to be some problems. And I think they picked out a couple here. There's one here, one over there. There was a truck that went without the required guide on it. You're going to find that. And that's going to be, advertised and blown up as an indication of a general trend. It's not a general trend, but in fact it's going to be portrayed as one.
See, I think,
as someone said, BJP started organizing for 2019 the day after they won 2014. Amit Shah started organizing.
Oh, I heard that they said prepare for 2024. 2019 is in the bag anyway.
No, I mean 2014, 2019. And the interesting thing about Congress is they seriously thought that putting on Priyanka Gandhi was a great weapon. Not realizing that the world has changed. It doesn't make any kind of impact to have Priyanka Gandhi going down the Ganga like Cleopatra in a boat, waving at people. Well, thank you very much. The world is no longer like that. So I think they have to learn a lot if they are going to recover by 2024. They'll have to learn much more.
I think not making her contest was not
this is not going to be much better than 44.
It looked like a half-hearted plunge.
My point is, going back to the earlier, issue, there'll be a disgruntled group of people, I would even call them a disgruntled minority, who will never accept Modi, who will never accept the people's verdict, who will never accept, the fairness of the electoral process or even the EVMs. They will keep finding reasons to keep questioning the legitimacy of this government. That's why I said, is shahar mein har shakhs pareshan sa kyun hai?
Right.
Because, once you lose that bastion, your, shining city on the hill, Raisina Hill, they are never going to join. But that doesn't mean that, that this government is going to stop doing what it does or that the people are not going to support them. But this group will continue to keep puncturing wherever possible. And even with Balakot, they'll always say, look, it's fake. Which Balakot? Is it this side of the border or that side of the border? So that will keep happening, I feel.
We will discuss that in detail. Also, how the world press is covering this and the kind of comments coming in. Meanwhile, the opposition's doubts over EVMs have not gone down very well among serving officers of the Indian Administrative Service, especially those who are currently engaged with the Election Commission. Many of them have taken to Twitter to vouch for the integrity of EVMs. One IAS officer who has been conducting elections for the past 15 years termed the charges against the Election Commission incredulous. Former chief of RNAW, Vikram Sood, put out a tweet thread explaining why EVMs cannot be compromised. He called the claims by the opposition, quote-unquote, worse than a farce. These officers, in one voice, clearly said that electronic voting machines cannot be hacked. So why is the opposition raising an alarm about EVMs now at this point in time? The exit polls haven't gone their way, as we've discussed. 7 out of 9 exit polls predict that the NDA will secure a majority. Prime Minister Modi claims that there is a pro-incumbency wave in the country, and some pollsters seem to agree. Look at this survey conducted by the Centre for the Study of Developing Societies, CSDS. The survey found that the popularity of Prime Minister Modi is still intact. In fact, he has won more voters from the left-leaning parties this time. Here's what the numbers say. CSDS asked its respondents about their choice for Prime Minister. In 2014, 4% of Congress voters chose Narendra Modi. 5 years later, that number has increased by 3%. So now it's 7% of Congress voters who say they want Modi as Prime Minister. He may have lost some support among voters who prefer to vote for allies of the Congress, but he makes up for it. The CSDS survey found that among its sample of BSP voters, for instance, more respondents chose Modi. Similarly, he has gained more support from left voters, as well as from other parties. In short, the CSDS found that Narendra Modi is still the most popular choice for Prime Minister. He's 18 points ahead from his nearest rival, Rahul Gandhi. This morning I read a newspaper opinion piece which said that we, in the media, people who weigh in on which way the election is going, tend to live in an echo chamber, and our analysis is often overshadowed by our hopes. So we do not see a silent wave. Was there always this pro-incumbency wave, as the Prime Minister says?
Well, it's true that journalists and political analysts spend an awful lot of time talking to each other, but also try and get out there and talk to real people and get to the ground. I'm not entirely surprised. I'm actually quite surprised that the differential between Narendra Modi's popularity figures and Rahul Gandhi's is only 18%. I'd have thought it'd be quite a lot bigger, because actually I don't think there's all that many people who think Rahul Gandhi is a great potential leader. But this election has been all about Narendra Modi. I'm slightly surprised again that 7% of Congress voters think Modi would be the best leader. I can't quite work out why they're not then BJP voters, because this has been such a personalised campaign. But I think, you know, we've talked before about the way in which, I think misguidedly, Rahul Gandhi made Narendra Modi, in a sense, the centrepiece of his own campaign with the Chokidar Chor Hai slogan, and people do not think Narendra Modi is a chore. They quite like the way in which he's a chokidar. And I'm coming to the conclusion, which I didn't have, I think, a week or two ago, that Balakot has been a much bigger factor in the way that people regard Narendra Modi and therefore have supported the BJP than it initially appeared. It seemed to be fading as an issue, but I think the sense of Narendra Modi as a strong leader who gives a strong response when India's interests are imperiled has made a difference with the electorate.
Do you believe, we've always maintained and we've always seen that Narendra Modi's personal popularity has been way above his party's. But the fact that people have not bothered to worry about who their constituency representative is and have voted for Modi is what seems to have worked here, if the exit polls are right.
Well, if they're right, but you have so many of them right. Who was it? Omar Abdullah said, you know, if they all say that, I'm just going to go to bed and I'll wake up, you know, on Friday and see the results. I suspect that they are right, you know, in terms of where they're headed. But there is an effort to deny it. And where that effort starts is in December, when the Congress won those 3 states, you know, quite handily in most cases. But, you know, what's interesting is the polling that was taken in January, right after those elections, indicate that Modi was popular in those 3, 60%. 60%. And I agree with you. I thought the 18% was a narrower gap than I would have imagined, because in that same poll, Rahul was way behind in terms of who you would prefer to have as prime minister. And I think, you know, when people vote on a state basis and a national basis, there's a different set of criteria that they vote on, clearly. And it's going to be interesting because there is a push, including in this government, to have state elections as well as national elections at the same time as they used to be in India. And the thing is, in a sense, that will change the dynamic that now exists, where you have a set of things that are local and another set of things that are national. Because simply because you support Modi at the national level doesn't mean you necessarily support the BJP at the local level. There's all sorts of instances where that's not the case. So we'll see where that goes. My guess is the government would like to push that. This government would like to push having simultaneous, because it probably suits their benefit to do that.
You think the larger messaging works? Someone was telling us today that some man in a village in Rajasthan was asked why he voted Modi, and he said, because he brought that pilot back. He has nothing to do with the pilot. He has never been in the army. It really doesn't affect his life. But that was the one point that sort of got him to...
Yes and no. I mean, people say all kinds of things, especially when they're on TV. But I do agree that Indians want a strong leader who can change the profile of India both domestically and on the world stage. And there's no comparison to Modi's leadership. I agree with what everybody here has said about it. And in fact, speaking of these surveys, it was not a CSDS poll, but another one, which showed that a larger percentage of Muslims voted for the BJP this time, plus 5%. So he's somebody who's able to attract, the support of all sections of the people, because he's tapped into the aspirational potential of the Indians. And we don't want to be seen as a third-rate power, on the world stage. As somebody said, hum bhikmange nahi hai. We are not beggars, but we have some dignity. And I think that, Modi has managed to awaken that sense of pride in an average Indian who may be dispossessed and not have a toilet, but is still aspirational for his country, and for his own class and his family and his, community. So I think that this leadership quotient is going to make a huge difference in the results that we see tomorrow. And then the other point that somebody very senior in the government told me, he said, all these emotive issues are fine and they keep the pot boiling, as it were, of this pot boiler, which is the election. But in the village, people have appreciated the work done on the ground. Like there was no electricity, gas was a distant, possibility for these people, toilets, possibility of having your own home. He said people appreciate those things, and that mattered even in Gujarat. He said, don't forget, in Gujarat the wave was against Modi, but people remembered that he brought the Narmada waters to Saurashtra. That's what matters in the end.
This may be a parliamentary election, but do you think at the end it was a presidential-style contest, and on one side we had Modi, and on the other side there was no credible alternative?
First of all, the opposition made it a presidential candidate, so the Modi hatao, like in 1971, Indira hatao.
Yeah.
And once you make a presidential candidate, you have to have somebody on the other side. They didn't have that. But secondly, I was also thinking, looking at the pictures, look at Rahul Gandhi. He thinks looking slightly scruffy, going around the country, is good. It's an old style. Modi is absolutely impeccably dressed, time after time, different colored turbans, well-dressed, well-prepared. And I think, people have now...
there was a home minister who was impeccably dressed, and then he lost his job in India. We had Shivraj Patil, who was also impeccably dressed.
I mean, what it is that people now receive information on their television, they see Modi hugging Trump, and they say, it is our guy out there, as an equal. And that makes a lot of impact. The sophisticated people laugh at it, but the simple people think this is good for us.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of difference. Modi knows how to communicate, and the rest don't.
I want to take up something that Makaran said, which is the signs of a slight increase in Muslim support for Narendra Modi, because we're moving from a very low base to a still very low figure. And I think the thing that Narendra Modi and the BJP have failed to do is to bring Muslims on board. So how many Muslims are there in the BJP parliamentary party? How many Muslims are there in prominent positions? And I think some of the rhetoric, green streak stuff and things like that, have clearly diminished the status of minorities in this country. And when the Muslim minority is so huge, and when India may, in a couple of decades' time, be the world's have the world's biggest Muslim population, I think that's a matter for acute concern.
And it's not just Modi, or it's not just the BJP. I think in this election, every party sort of gave up on the Muslim vote, because Rahul Gandhi was at pains to prove his Hindu credentials. And
apart from Trinamool.
Apart from Trinamool, maybe.
See, I think it's a difficult choice. You want to consolidate Hindu votes. You can't be seen as appeasing the Muslim minority that much. But I agree with what Andrew said, that after the second term, we must move to an inclusive Hindutva. I mean, the BJP has to change its messaging so that you're no longer struggling to counteract or countermand the Nehruvian consensus, which was based on a cobbling together, stitching together of various minorities. Even if you're going to be majoritarian, let's say, if you want to message yourself as a pro-Hindu party, and, Christian Democrats, whatever, this Christian is not seen as a red flag in Europe.
I think they say by a Hindu party they do not mean Hinduism the religion, but the Hindu way of life.
Yeah, but they still, even if they're majoritarian, they have to be inclusively majoritarian, it seems to me.
Right.
Not exclusively majoritarian, which really means that in the second term, they have to rein in that faction, you know, which has been so virulent and so aggressively anti-Muslim at times, you know. It's no longer necessary. I think they have to show themselves to be inclusive, statesman-like.
Sonia Gandhi was worried that Congress was thought to be too Muslim-friendly. And so this time they've been completely Muslim-unfriendly. They haven't mentioned the Muslims at all. And so if Modi mentions triple talaq, he's plus several times compared to the... You know, I think the Congress just over-interpreted the message they got about being thought anti-Hindu, and they just went overboard. They didn't have to go that much overboard. They didn't have to kind of surrender on the Hindutva. They could have held their position very guardedly and said, you know, we are sort of,
secular.
For the majority, we've always been for the majority, but our sense of majority is a mixed majority rather than, they could have done that, but they didn't do it.
Right.
And went on saying he's a Brahmin with sacred thread. I mean, what's the point?
I think it worked in Gujarat, or so they said. It worked in Gujarat, so they tried to do more of it. But talking about Rahul Gandhi, well, UPA chairperson Sonia Gandhi is finally active. She will chair a meeting of opposition leaders tomorrow. DMK chief Stalin has confirmed that he has received an invite. The DMK, remember, is a member of the UPA. And as I said, this is the first time in this election that Sonia Gandhi is taking center stage in the opposition's activities. She's not been seen on the campaign trail, although she is contesting from Raebareli, which is a seat that she still holds. In fact, she visited Raebareli only twice during this election, once while she filed her nomination papers, and then second to address one rally. Sonia Gandhi, in fact, is said to have been silently reaching out to leaders from parties which are not part of the NDA, though that is one huge chunk of regional parties like the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, YSR Congress, the Biju Janata Dal.
In a democracy, it's always important for responsible political parties to keep engaging with each other. Unlike the BJP, who invites the CBI director, the ED director, the income tax officers, we know who to interact with in a democracy.
Together, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Odisha make up 63 seats. If it is a split vote with no alliance getting anywhere close to majority, then these players like the TRS, the YSR Congress, the BJD, Trinamool Congress and the Gathbandhan in Uttar Pradesh will decide the next government. But the choice of parties is unique. Choice of parties that the Congress is reaching out to. Jagan Mohan Reddy formed YSR Congress in opposition to interference from the Congress High Command, as they're called. He wants to be a powerful leader like his father, YS Rajshekhar Reddy. His party now has a traditional Congress vote bank in Andhra Pradesh. Why would he back the Congress party at the centre? Besides, Jagan is contesting against Chandrababu Naidu, who has decided to back any non-BJP government. Having both Jagan and Naidu in the same coalition seems impossible as of now. Already news reports say that Jagan did not respond to Sharad Pawar's call after the exit poll results. Sharad Pawar is said to be reaching out to him on behalf of the UPA. He is unlikely to attend the opposition meeting tomorrow. Similarly, KCR is fighting the Congress in Telangana. He's unlikely to back the UPA easily. In fact, KCR has been talking about a federal front for many months now. He's been touring the country, meeting regional leaders. Getting him on board for a Congress-led combo would be difficult. He went on record a few days back to say that they will accept Congress's support and that Congress should not insist on the prime ministerial spot. As far as wooing Naveen Patnaik is concerned, the Congress may not get lucky. After Cyclone Fani, Patnaik and Modi coordinated the relief measures. It was a clear enough indication. Remember that Biju Janata Dal had been a long-time member of the NDA. The thing is that these overtures should have been made before the election. The alliances should have been stitched then. Now these regional leaders are not quite warming up to the Congress party. Even the existing alliances are under threat. Reports suggest that several MLAs of JDS in Karnataka are in talks with the BJP. The BJP is the single largest party in Karnataka. If JDS switches sides to protect the government in the state, the Congress will lose a crucial ally and a state. Remember, 2 days ago, BSP chief Mayawati was expected to meet Sonia Gandhi and Congress President Rahul Gandhi, but she cancelled it at the last moment and she did not give a reason. The Congress wants to be in touch with all these regional players, but the regional parties are playing the waiting game. And then we have Madhya Pradesh. It continues to be a state under watch. Now, Chief Minister Kamal Nath says the BJP has offered money to more than 10 Congress legislators. He says anywhere between 10 to 25 crore rupees have been offered to these MLAs, and that effort will not succeed because the Congress legislators are going to stick with the party, or so he says.
कोई फीडबैक की आवश्यकता नहीं मुझे कांग्रेस के विधायकों पर पूरा विश्वास है। मुझे कम से कम 10 विधायकों ने अभी कहा कि हमें ऐसे फोन आ रहे हैं, इतना पैसा का प्रलोभन दे रहे हैं, ऐसे पद का प्रलोभन दे रहे हैं। ये तो सब अगर मैं नाम लूं तो आप नीचे चले जाइए, उनसे खुद ही पूछ लेंगे।
The BJP has called for a special session of the Madhya Pradesh Assembly. They have written to the governor. They want the Congress to prove majority.
अब ये कांग्रेस पार्टी को सूचना जिसकी सरकार यदि मॉरली वो देखती है कि उसके वोट प्रतिशत में काफी अंतर आया और अधिकांश सीटों पर उसके उम्मीदवार हार गए हैं, तो यदि वो चाहे तो नैतिक रूप से इस्तीफा दे दे।
Is Kamal Nath feeling the heat? After all, the BJP and Congress are neck and neck in the assembly polls. The Congress does not have a majority on its own. If Lok Sabha results go against this party, is the Madhya Pradesh government under threat? What happens if these MLAs switch sides? According to India's anti-defection law, MLAs who switch sides will be disqualified. If a legislator defies the party whip, he or she can lose membership to the House. That would also bring down the total number of seats and hence the majority mark in the Assembly. The only exception to this disqualification is if more than 2/3 of a party's legislators want to switch sides, then they will not be disqualified. Even if 5 to 10 MLAs leave the Congress party in Madhya Pradesh, it could become very difficult for the government to stay in power. The allegations all these allegations, they prove one thing, that the Congress is struggling to hold on to states that it rules at the moment. Let's start with what Sonia Gandhi is doing. This ragtag coalition that she's trying to put together, a khichdi of sorts. Do you think it'll work? More and more people are being non-committal about whether they want to talk to her.
No, I don't think it'll work, but I think she's got to give it a try. We know that the BJP are talking to these non-aligned regional parties. They could be really quite important if the NDA is a little short of her overall majority. And it would be very strange indeed if these regional figures were getting calls and visits from the BJP and the Congress wasn't part of the game. I think the other thing is, actually, last night we saw the Council of Ministers meeting, and then we saw the NDA have a rather grand dinner at the Ashoka Hotel, which was in part for the media. The cameras were allowed in there, the photographers were there. We haven't seen the UPA get together, the opposition parties.
Because people aren't coming to meet them. Mayawati cancelled, and so did Jagat.
But there is a sort of a formal alliance which is still, I think, in place. So I think Sonia Gandhi wants to try and get, to regain some attention. And also there's a perception that Sharad Pawar and Chandrababu Naidu are the guys that are going around trying to stick together an anti-BJP alliance. I don't think very many people imagine that they will succeed. But when Congress believes that it's in pole position, then Congress has got to actually be seen to be doing something to try and bring together parties who might be able, if they came together, to challenge the BJP. But I think it's a little bit of a sort of false task, because I think the Congress know that they're not going to be in a position to form any form of alliance. But they can't do nothing at this stage.
And can't be seen to be doing nothing as well. Now that Sonia Gandhi has taken matters in her own hands, where does this leave the party president and her son Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, who was their star campaigner?
It all depends on numbers. And I think the reason that Sonia is doing this is just to tell people, listen, we are not going to insist on Rahul being the prime ministerial candidate. We just want to bring everybody together. Anybody but Modi, But if the numbers don't add up tomorrow, as you rightly said, the whole, it'll be a non-starter. The whole thing will fall flat, you see. And it's just like, a souffle that doesn't rise, It's just a complete, but these gestures, are important. It's window dressing. You've got to keep the, focus of the nation or the press on you, and you keep calling up these people. But tomorrow is what will really determine. If they are not even in sniffing range of crossing the halfway mark, and people like Mayawati, they're holding back because they want their own pound of flesh. If support is needed, they'll join, or they may support the BJP and the NDA for some real gains on the ground. We don't know how it will pan out. But it's actually the numbers, not ideology or even calculations or expediency that will matter. It'll be hard numbers, the cold arithmetic. Chemistry will go out of the door, I'll tell you that.
Do you think instead of trying to put together an alliance which may not materialize, the Congress should focus on keeping the states that it has?
Well, they should. I agree with the two previous speakers. This is to give the impression that they're busy, they're doing something that will keep it together. I think in their heart of hearts, they know they're going to lose. And they know that all these, like Omar Abdullah said, that all of these things can't all be wrong, that there must be some truth to that.
And Ashok Gehlot saying we'll accept it with humility.
And others as well, that, this is going to happen. But there is a fear about what the prospects will be, particularly for the Congress, is a big fear. Because what's going to happen is the various regional parties, and you're absolutely right, Andrew, is the regional parties want a relationship with the center. They have to have a relationship with the center. And if the center is the BJP, as it now looks increasing like it is, they're going to have to sort of refigure their relationship. I think that explains much what's happening today. The rumblings and the edges of the Congress Party. The Punjab Congress Party is split in many ways. And you have a similar situation among some Congress figures in Karnataka as well. And then you have some of the regional parties thinking, oh, well, maybe, in fact, articulating it, maybe we have to sort of see what the future will bring. And they're beginning to sort of pull back from some of the hard line that they took. The Congress can't afford to do that. They're going to stay hard line and give the impression that we're going to bring, this coalition together so it means something. I just saw something today in the Indian Express that said, the whole article was about coalitions. The BJP hasn't lost a single coalition partner, and they have 36. I had no idea they had that many. They haven't lost a single one.
They have very many, but small parties.
Yeah, very insignificant. The 38th, 39th, and 40th.
We have the Shiv Sena, which goes on and praises the Congress Party all the time, and then keeps fighting with them, and then keeps coming back.
Right now it's not. Right now it's aligned, and they shared seats in the Maharashtra, for the Lok Sabha seats. So, you've got, this kind of stirring going on. I wouldn't be surprised. Tomorrow will be interesting in many ways as a result to find out what these regional leaders are saying and doing. That will be critical because the obvious fact of what happened will be real. And if you're, if you're the leader in West Bengal, you've got to think about the center. And the same is true in Tamil Nadu as well. So I'd be interested to see how their reaction is going to be, to all of this that's happening, particularly the efforts of the Congress to have a united group, which I don't think is going to be possible. It's not possible now.
I think the one who made a start well before others in this direction, recalibrating their approach towards the center, was perhaps Naveen Patnaik. Voting was over and then he went on with that.
Congress should have taken the view that there is less chance of coming to power with some sort of combination thing, but they have to prepare for the opposition. And Congress should have convened this meeting that Chandrababu Naidu convened. How we are going to combine and oppose BJP over the next 5 years. Now, Congress not taking the lead, I think it's entirely because Sonia Gandhi is no longer as active as she used to be.
Sonia Gandhi would have done Rahul Gandhi as the person who can be that binding factor.
Sonia Gandhi would have done it because she has a better sense of politics than Rahul Gandhi has. And so I actually do believe that they missed a trick. Because a lot of these regional parties, they may say non-BJP, but they have been with the BJP NDA for a long time. Chandrababu Naidu has been there. And when Sharad Pawar appears on the scene, it's hopeless. Because he wants to be prime minister still. And somehow, you think, oh my God, this is the end of the world. What is, why are these people taking the lead when Congress should be taking the lead, saying we are the second largest party in Lok Sabha, and it's our responsibility to guard the nation against BJP. That's the way to do it.
So they've ceded the space of the principal opposition party as well, you're saying?
Yeah. They have to have a combined opposition.
It is striking that we saw a lot of Narendra Modi being garlanded by outsized garlands at the Ashoka Hotel last night. Rahul Gandhi's sent a couple of tweets and messages. Otherwise, he's not been visible. Priyanka Gandhi has sent an audio message. Sonia Gandhi, she's doing things, but not very much in public view. And these are the dynasty which controls India's only alternative nationwide party.
Perhaps the ANI cameras have given up on them.
But
who knows?
When Pranab Mukherjee changed his view on the electronic voting machine, I'm sure it was because Mama called him up and said, "You owe us something more. Come on, get on with it." And he did.
Right.
That is the power of Sonia Gandhi.
Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi seems to be the flavour of the season, and he's usually popular at home going by the exit polls and approval ratings, and he's been harshly criticised in the Western media. Soon after the exit poll results came out, Pakistani media, for one, began their Modi bashing. Many channels voiced their reservations about the return of Modi. The print media wasn't far behind. The Dawn, for one, carried a piece today titled "If Modi Returns." The article calls BJP a Hindu supremacist party and paints a rather grim picture of India's minorities if Modi returns to power. Interestingly, the article also focuses on Article 370 and Kashmir. Just for perspective, here's Pakistan's record on minorities. They formed 15% of the country's population at the time of independence. Now they have been reduced to less than 2%. We also suggest you read up about Asia Bibi. Meanwhile, the Western press has been busy tracking the world's biggest election. The Economist told Indians not to vote Modi. The Time magazine put him on the cover page as India's divider-in-chief. And now we have Britain's acclaimed newspaper, The Guardian, with perhaps the meanest take on India and Modi. The Guardian piece does not have a title. It is an assertion, even a threat. It reads, 5 more years of Narendra Modi will take India to a dark place. It begins with an account of the scale of Indian elections and criticism of the Prime Minister over his poll promises of 2014. Some would say that is normal. A centre-left newspaper like The Guardian is expected to be critical of right-wing politicians. But The Guardian article went a step further. It started abusing Indians en masse. It says that India has become, and I'm quoting, culturally arid, intellectually vacant, emotionally bruised, vain, bitter, boastful, permanently aggrieved, implacably malevolent, and a make-believe land full of fudge and fakery. Very well. If India is a make-believe land full of fudge and fakery, how would one describe the Brexit referendum and the whole saga that followed? Be that as it may, this election in India has been a very polarizing one, no doubt about it. Now, the Western media wants to jump in at the fag end and make it more bitter. Critique on a government and a prime minister, we say, comes after careful analysis. We all do it with facts taken into account, not by calling a prime minister and the people of an entire country names. Indians decide which party should be in power. The media, Indian or Western, has no locus standi to advise and abuse Indians on the basis of their political choice. That attitude reeks of a sense of superiority. Besides, it also looks very immature to tag a population of more than 130 crore people with terms like intellectually vacant. I can see Andrew already preparing his answer.
I saw this article. It's in The Guardian, which is a left liberal paper. It's not a piece of reportage. It's not an editorial. It's an opinion piece. I think it's overstated. I don't think its intent is to abuse all Indians at all. But what it is saying is that... It
says the new India is all those things which I just read out.
Yeah, I mean...
it's an Indian author, isn't it?
It's an Indian author,
It is an Indian author. I mean, I just think it's wrong to say that India is intellectually vacant, and I can see it's offensive, but I don't think it's intended to abuse all Indians. It's a overstated article. I'm not excusing it. It's an overstated article. But there is a viewpoint which needs to find expression that the Hindutva style that Narendra Modi brings to India is illiberal, intolerant, and diminishes minorities and makes minority communities, particularly Muslims and Christians, feel and seem less Indian than others. And this is the central argument, I think, of this piece. A similar argument was put much more articulately and much more effectively by Harsh Mander in The Hindu today. It didn't use the overblown language, but it made the point that secular India, the India of its founding constitution, is, in many people's eyes, in danger. That's a viewpoint that I think needs to be rehearsed in the public domain.
Since it's such a polemical subject, I want to ask you this. We talk about electronic meddling. We talk about data mining on social media. When the press, Indian or foreign, tries to influence voter choices, does that also amount to election meddling?
Well, yes and no. But I think what we are seeing is the great derangement, to borrow a phrase from Amitav Ghosh. And it's not about climate change. This derangement is about a tectonic shift in India's narrative, in the idea of India. And the foreign media has been unable to stomach this, And there's a sense, as you rightly said, of superiority, of condescension towards what's happening in India, which is what I object to. It's not a respectful analysis like what happened, why did the narrative change, but it's talking down and saying, you guys, you're barbaric, you are, intolerant, you're this or that, and it's uniform.
I think Michael Safi, who is the Guardian's correspondent in Delhi, is a very seasoned and authoritative journalist. Amy Kasmin, who reports for the Financial Times, they are trying to explain the new currents in India in a way that is not condescending, does not reflect any sense of superiority.
Look at Time, look at the
Washington
Guardian,
Post.
look at Wall Street Journal, look at Washington Post. I've been following them, I've even been tweeting about some of these. This person, I've tracked all his articles in the Guardian, and in 2009 when UPA 1 came, he was glowing with, how this decisive victory, as you were saying, suggests that secularism is alive, but more needs to be done. So, I think that there's a great delusion, and the idea that India is always the land of the exotic, unexplainable, the menagerie of monsters.
Snake charmers.
Yeah, as it is in Midnight Children.
is-
I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
When I have friends in the diplomatic corps, and they tell me that when they're posted to India, their must-read book is Midnight's Children. And I said, no, read the Mahabharata. So you see that there is an idea of India that has been sedulously cultivated over a period of time, which is crumbling before our eyes. And what's happening is this derangement and outrage that India doesn't hold true anymore.
Right. I want to broaden this. Has it become?
I did not read Midnight Children. I can tell you there is within the diplomatic corps. I can tell, having been in it, there are
But you didn't read the Mahabharata either. I can assure you.
I did in fact read the Mahabharata.
But it wasn't a part of your kit.
It
wasn't a part of your kit to prepare for India.
You have two different kinds of people. You have some who come, because they see India as a good place to go, because they have a big house and they have servants and that sort of thing. But you also have some who come who love the country, who really love it,
who
love this country.
I'm sure.
And you have in the British High Commission. So you cannot say that diplomats are somehow unaware of the beauty of this country and the culture. They are.
Right. I want to broaden this, and I want to say that there is this inherent bias, it seems, in the majority of the press to deride all things right-wing. It happens to Donald Trump in America, and it's happening to Narendra Modi in India.
But what it is, partly it is an expatriate bias. Just as people think Trump must be a horrible man because, the way he is. India is the second largest investor in UK and the largest employer of manufacturing workers. And after Brexit, UK is going to need India for a free trade treaty. And, the whole balance has changed, and it's no longer possible for people to think, UK is a dark continent. India is just a dark continent of billions of poor people. This is so old-fashioned. They really have to wake up. Time magazine has to wake up.
I'm out of time. I'm completely out of time. I think we should have allotted more time to this one. It seems to be the most interesting discussion.
You remember, may you be the mother of 100 sons, Elizabeth Bumiller? It's standard. You come as a diplomat's wife, then you write this authoritative book on India, and it simply regurgitates the colonial tropes. That's not going to work anymore.
Her husband was not a diplomat, by the way. Her husband was not a diplomat, by the way. Her husband was not a diplomat, by the way.
But he was a bureau chief. I mean, it was the same community.
Thank you.
He wasn't a diplomat.
We'll discuss this tomorrow. We have the full day. Thank you very much for joining.